sending shockwaves through the global economy. This historic verdict dismantles a key pillar of the administration's economic policy, reshaping international trade and presidential power. The tariffs, introduced in April, had sparked fierce debate, affecting prices and alliances worldwide. With the court's decision, legal questions are settled, but economic and political uncertainty is just beginning. The ruling is a major check on presidential authority, redefining how future administrations approach trade. For Americans, this means potential changes in the cost of living and product availability. As of September 13, 2025, we're witnessing a dramatic realignment in U.S. economic policy with global consequences. A tariff is essentially a tax that a government places on goods coming into its country from abroad. When a product crosses a border, the government can charge a fee, which is the tariff. This fee is added to the cost of the imported item, making it more expensive for consumers and businesses to buy foreign goods. By making foreign products pricier, tariffs are designed to encourage people to buy locally made alternatives, which can help domestic industries grow and compete. For example, if a German car faces a 25% tariff when entering the US, its sticker price rises significantly. This price hike can make American-made cars more attractive to buyers, giving them a competitive advantage in the market. Tariffs come in different forms. Some are a percentage of the product's value. These are called ad valorem tariffs. The more expensive the item, the higher the tariff. Others are a fixed amount charged per item, known as specific tariffs. For example, a $10 fee on every imported bicycle, no matter its price. Governments use tariffs for several reasons: to protect local industries from foreign competition, to generate revenue for public spending, or as a bargaining chip in international trade disputes. Sometimes, tariffs are imposed as retaliation against what a country sees as unfair trade practices by another nation, sparking trade wars that can escalate quickly. The Trump administration's tariffs were sweeping, targeting a wide range of products from steel to electronics. These measures disrupted established global supply chains and created uncertainty for businesses and consumers around the world. While the money collected from tariffs goes directly to the government, the reality is that importers often pass these extra costs on to consumers. This means everyday people may end up paying more for goods from cars to groceries. Economists continue to debate who bears the true burden of tariffs: importers, exporters, or consumers, but most agree that, in the end, it's usually the public who feels the impact through higher prices and fewer choices. The widespread and aggressive use of tariffs during the Trump era turned them into a powerful and controversial tool, sparking heated debates in political, economic, and legal circles. Understanding how tariffs work and why they matter is essential for anyone trying to grasp the stakes of the Supreme Court's upcoming decision on their use and legality. President Trump's 2025 tariffs were central to his America First agenda, representing a bold shift in how the U.S. approached global trade. Trump believed that for too long American workers and industries had been left vulnerable to what he called unfair foreign competition, especially from countries with lower labor costs and fewer regulations. The tariffs aimed to protect U.S. manufacturing and jobs by making imported goods more expensive, encouraging companies to keep production at home and invest in American workers. The administration argued that decades of globalization and free trade had hollowed out American factories, leading to job losses and economic decline in many communities. China, in particular, was singled out for practices like intellectual property theft and government subsidies that, according to Trump's team, gave Chinese companies an unfair edge. By raising import costs, the goal was to boost domestic industry, encourage companies to source materials locally, and even reduce the national debt through increased tariff revenue. Supporters hoped this would spark a manufacturing revival across the country. Tariffs also became a powerful tool for foreign policy, pressuring other countries to renegotiate trade deals and cooperate on global issues like intellectual property rights and market access. Trump's approach was to use economic leverage to get better terms for the U.S. This marked a sharp break from decades of lower trade barriers and global integration, signaling a return to economic nationalism and a more assertive stance in international negotiations. Trump's team saw the old system as fundamentally unfair, arguing that previous trade deals had prioritized global interests over American prosperity. They pushed for a more confrontational approach, willing to risk trade wars to achieve their goals. The tariffs were both an economic shield and a diplomatic bargaining chip, designed to protect American interests while forcing other nations to the negotiating table. This aggressive strategy signaled a new era in U.S. trade policy, one defined by protectionism, tough negotiations, and a willingness to challenge the status quo in pursuit of what Trump called fair and reciprocal trade. Legal challenges to Trump's tariffs began immediately, with critics arguing he overstepped his authority. The administration relied on the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, claiming a national emergency justified the tariffs. Lower courts issued mixed rulings, but the Federal Circuit ultimately declared the tariffs illegal, saying IEPA wasn't a blank check for broad trade measures. Despite setbacks, the administration appealed to the Supreme Court, warning of dire trade consequences. The Supreme Court agreed to hear the case, focusing on the limits of presidential versus congressional power over trade. In the end, the court ruled the tariffs unconstitutional, reaffirming Congress's primary role in trade and taxation. This decision reasserts the balance of power in U.S. economic policy. The Supreme Court's ruling has upended American trade policy overnight, sending shockwaves through the nation's economic and political landscape. The decision, which many experts had anticipated for months, has now become a reality, and its effects are being felt from Wall Street to Main Street. For businesses, especially those relying on imports, the end of tariffs means lower costs and more stable supply chains. Companies that once struggled with unpredictable fees and sudden price hikes are now able to plan ahead with greater confidence. Many importers are already recalculating their budgets, anticipating increased profits and the ability to expand their operations. Consumers may soon see price drops on goods like electronics, cars, and furniture as savings filter through the economy. Retailers are preparing for a surge in demand, hoping that lower prices will attract more shoppers and boost sales. For families, this could mean more affordable options for big-ticket purchases and everyday essentials alike. However, industries once protected by tariffs, such as steel and aluminum, now face renewed foreign competition and possible job losses. Factory owners and workers are bracing for tough times ahead, as cheaper imports threaten to undercut domestic production. Some fear layoffs and plant closures, while others hope innovation and government support will help them adapt. The government may need to support affected sectors during this transition. Lawmakers are already discussing emergency measures, including retraining programs and financial aid, to help workers and communities adjust to the new reality. Diplomatically, the administration loses a key bargaining tool and must now work with Congress on future trade actions. Negotiators will have to find new ways to protect American interests abroad, relying more on alliances and less on unilateral threats. The era of unilateral tariff threats is over, forcing a strategic shift in U.S. trade negotiations. International partners are watching closely, eager to see how America's new approach will shape global commerce and diplomatic relations. The landscape for American businesses and workers is changing rapidly, ushering in a period of uncertainty, but also opportunity. As the dust settles, the nation must adapt to a new chapter in its economic story, one defined by collaboration, competition, and resilience. The Supreme Court's decision has been met with relief and optimism by many U.S. trading partners. Countries like Germany, Japan, and South Korea hope for a return to stable, rules-based trade. International businesses welcome the end of uncertainty, and global markets have responded positively. However, some nations, especially China, are cautious, waiting to see if the U.S. will make further concessions before lifting their own retaliatory tariffs. The speed at which other countries respond will affect how quickly American exporters benefit. The coming weeks will be crucial as nations adjust their trade policies to this new reality. The global response will shape economic relations for years to come. With the tariffs struck down, the Trump administration must chart a new course for trade policy. One option is to seek new legislation from Congress, but this will be politically challenging and likely more limited in scope. Alternatively, the administration may pivot to traditional diplomacy and multilateral trade agreements. This shift means slower progress, but could restore global trust and stability. The Supreme Court's ruling reinforces Congress's authority over trade, a vital check in American democracy. For everyday Americans, this decision affects prices, jobs, and the broader economy. The end of the tariff era brings uncertainty, but also the chance to rebuild international relationships. The choices made now will shape the economic future for everyone.